Welcome back. This is part 4 of our 6-part Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking webcast. The whole point of everything I have said up until this point is to illustrate in a variety of ways that the only reason that people smoke is to get nicotine. This is amply proven by the fact that as soon as you take the nicotine out of cigarettes, nobody smokes them. But ironically, while nicotine is an extremely addictive drug, in the sense that it hooks smokers very quickly, it's also a very weak drug in the sense that it leaves your body very quickly and that it has no really noticeable physical withdrawal symptoms. So it's not so much the physical aspect of addiction that creates the problems, it's the beliefs that smokers have about smoking that really hooks them. Towards the end of part 3, I mentioned that there were really only 3 essentials to finding it easy to quit. The first of which is to realize that there's nothing to give up. If there were any benefits to smoking whatsoever, they'd be plastered all over the pack, or you could give the tobacco company a call and they could describe them to you. There is truly nothing to give up. The second essential to finding it easy to stop smoking is to understand that while physical withdrawal from nicotine does exist, it's barely even noticeable. The fact is that smokers go into physical withdrawal from nicotine the second they put out a cigarette. In fact, many smokers sleep through the night, going through physical withdrawal from nicotine the whole time, and it's so mild that it doesn't even wake them up. It's interesting that physical withdrawal from nicotine only seems to come into play when we want to smoke, but we can't. Does that not seem odd to you? Does it not seem odd that a chain smoker can sleep for 8 hours, going through physical withdrawal from nicotine the whole time, and it's so mild it doesn't even wake him up, but as soon as he tries to stop smoking, 5 minutes later, he's having a nic fit? It just doesn't make any sense. How can this be caused by physical withdrawal from nicotine? People who are trying to quit smoking using willpower, or variations of the willpower method, do not understand these 2 key points: that there's nothing to give up, or that physical withdrawal from nicotine is very, very mild. In fact, far from believing there's nothing to give up, these people believe they're losing their best friend. They also believe that physical withdrawal from nicotine is this gut-wrenching family of emotions based around fear and anxiety and irritability and so on. Now, because they believe these 2 things, they are forced down the willpower path. And I want to demonstrate why this creates so much fear and misery. Every so often, something happens in our lives that triggers the thought process about quitting smoking. Sometimes it's a phone call with bad news that someone in your family has been diagnosed with a smoking-related illness or condition. Sometimes it's something as predictable as New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, where as a smoker you kind of feel it's your duty to try to quit smoking. So whatever the trigger, though, the thought process is the same. Deep down, we know we'd be 10 times better off as a non-smoker, but the thought of never being able to smoke again is absolutely terrifying. Then, of course, there is the brainwashing about how hard it is to quit. You see, because we still believe that smoking relaxes us, it helps us concentrate, it helps us cope with stress, we feel that we'll be deprived of these pleasures or this crutch, and that without it, we're expecting to be a basket case, and a pretty miserable one at that. And on top of that, we aren't even really sure that this is what we want in the first place. We're only really doing this for our parents, for our kids, for our partners, and so on and so forth. And on top of all of this, we're convinced we're going to fail anyway. Ring a bell, anyone? Think about it rationally. Wouldn't you be absolutely staggered if a person with these belief systems, if they actually succeeded in quitting smoking? Wouldn't you be absolutely staggered? Would you expect this person to find it easy or difficult? Frankly, I'd expect them to find quitting smoking impossible. It is going to be miserable and unpleasant because in their mind, they're not killing an enemy. They're losing a friend. But despite all these fears and doubts, we have to at least go through the fiasco of pretending to try to quit smoking. Now, let's say that you have more willpower than I do. Let's say you can muscle your way through the first couple of hours or the first couple of days or even the first couple of weeks. Then our minds, our brains begin playing tricks on us. After sort of what we perceive as surviving those first traumatic days as a non-smoker, we begin to let our guard down a little bit. And these are harmless thoughts to begin with. Just the odd thought floating in here and there about, wouldn't it be nice to have the odd one here when I'm having a coffee or when I'm out having a drink, just to help me relax, or in a stressful situation, just to help me cope, and so on. And soon, and very often under the influence of alcohol, we decide that it's safe, maybe just to smoke one cigarette. But of course, this wakes up all of your old smoking thoughts, beliefs, and so on and so forth. And before you know it, your brain is screaming at you to smoke another one, and another one, and another one. In the space of a few seconds, you have transformed from a non-smoker who's desperate to have a cigarette to being a smoker who's desperate to stop again. One is no fun, and one is even less fun. And now we trot out the old, excuses, but inevitably we start to beat ourselves up. How could I be so stupid? I was free. Why did I go back to smoking? And then the horror kicks in. What if I can never quit again? The reality is that if you're using willpower to quit smoking, it is profoundly depressing. There's absolutely no question about that. And many willpower quitters mistakenly describe this kind of depression as physical withdrawal from nicotine. But in fact, these symptoms are created really by two things. Firstly, by the false belief that by stopping smoking that we're somehow giving something up or losing something. And the second thing that causes these feelings is doubt. Doubt over, how will I know that I'm done? When will I know that I'm done? When will I be truly free? In our live seminars, we encourage people, attendees, to express their doubts and fears in this area. The two questions that come up most frequently, by a long way, is firstly, when will I know that I've done it, that I've successfully quit smoking? And the second is, how will I know that I've really done it? You see, these are questions really that torture people who are trying to quit smoking using willpower, because they're desperate to try to get closure on these issues, but they're unable to do so, and it's very important that we try and do this. Every week we get hundreds and hundreds of calls from people who are trying to quit smoking using willpower in varying stages of panic, and wherever we can, we offer advice, and we encourage them to ask these questions of themselves. So how will you know when you're done? When will you know when you're done? Some people say, I'll wake up tomorrow morning and I'll be a non-smoker and that's it. And truth be told, if you let it be that easy, I'm sure it would be. But I've seen many, many people relapse after 24 hours using willpower, so it can't be anything to do with that. Some people say 3 days. Now, at 3 days, you are 100% nicotine free. Technically, you're no longer an addict. But again, I've seen many, many, many people using willpower relapse after 3 days. Can't be anything to do with that. Some say 3 weeks. This is when your oxygen levels return to normal, those of a non-smoker, and you really do begin to feel different at a physical level. But again, I've seen many people using willpower relapse after 3 weeks. Some people say 3 months. This is a popular answer from people who are using a lot of the quit smoking aids that are available on the market these days. The patch, the gum, some of the pills, and so on and so forth. Most of these are 12-week, 3-month programs. But really, it might sound good in a support leaflet, but does it work in real life? I mean, what's so important about 3 months? Why not 2.5 months or 4.5 months? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, are you being told that for 11 weeks and 6 days you're going to be like a bear with a sore head, but miraculously on the 12th week you're going to wake up and feel fantastic to be a non-smoker? Why would this happen? It doesn't make any sense. In any case, if you're nicotine-free after 3 days, then what's the point of a 12-week program of nicotine patches or nicotine gum anyway? Some people say a year. You give me a year as a non-smoker and then I'll really know that I'm done. But it's the same as the 3-month argument. Are you telling me that you're going to be miserable for 364 days, but then miraculously you're going to feel fantastic on the 365th? Why would this happen? I have seen many, many people quit smoking on New Year's Day as a New Year's resolution. And I have seen them many celebrate a year smoke-free with a big fat cigar the next New Year's Eve. Guess what? They are back buying cigarettes the next day. Can't be anything to do with that. Some people say, I will never know. Or even worse, I will never be truly free. Once an addict, always an addict, huh? Many such people have also quit drinking or using other drugs with AA or a variation of the kind of 12-step approach. And whilst I'm extremely loath to criticize such an incredible organization, an organization that has helped millions of families across the world, I think it is definitely true to say that people really get unstuck when they try to apply some of the 12 steps to smoking. And I feel that I need to address this topic because 12 steps really is the prevalent mentality in addiction counseling in North America. And it's been applied to just about every addiction going. So I really feel that I need to cover this mindset. In particular, I think that there are a couple of aspects of the 12 steps that, and related beliefs and practices that can kind of create a barrier to lasting success with respect to quitting smoking. The first is the notion of being in permanent recovery. In AA, you continue to define yourself as an alcoholic for the rest of your life, whether you actually drink the stuff or not. And the implication is that we must apply this to smoking, in that we remain nicotine addicts forever, whether we smoke or not. My own view